What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Enhanced Defenses on Cradle of Death. Brian, let us hear the mutation.
Cradle of Death is the map where constructs guard specific points that we have to destroy. These constructs are invincible unless we bring a truck nearby to make them vulnerable. Then we destroy them and both players need to deploy the trucks in the guarded spots to destroy the objectives. Nukes fall around the map. Enemy buildings shoot back. All enemies, including buildings and constructs, get a 100 health shield upon first taking damage.
Alright, so all those sound annoying, but none are a little too tricky. But let's see. Sticksbender and Tutu are with us in the call. How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
Alright, so Sticksbender, how are we going to rank the commanders this week?
What we've got for our the biggest threat is basically just going to be, well, you can get nuked when you aren't looking. Other than that, it's pretty easy.
I will get nuked when I'm not looking. That's just how I work with RNG.
Yes, you will get nuked when you're not looking because, of course, you will.
Of course I will.
Basically, this is an easy mutation, so it's mostly going to be a Cradle of Death tier list with the whole thing of, well, commanders will get bonus points if they don't just lose from getting nuked, and some commanders have a little bit of trouble with barrier or structure overcharge against certain comps. So, some commanders might lose points for that, but mostly this is going to be a map tier list because this is an easy mutation.
Anything to add, Tutu?
Nope.
Great.
Fairly straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Abathur, where do we have him?
I don't think there's anything special. None of the three mutators are terrible for Abathur, except you probably just can't drop. You can still lure. You can still put them on the ramps, so they're still going to be useful. I think it's pretty standard Abathur play. Because of going nuclear though, reinforcing your army's gonna be if you control your army with F2, then you might lose stuff while they're on the way to where you're fighting.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just gonna start him off with B or A. I think it's just nothing too special.
Does Abathur need an army, or does he just need his 6 ultimate evolutions to walk through everything?
You probably want to make use of that biomass afterwards. You probably focus on the 6 ultimate evolutions, then 2 vipers, and then mutalisks.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is the threat of going nuclear is it'll nuke your optional mutas.
Optional mutalisks.
All
Actually,
right.
if we're going
So-
optional stuff, we might as well go vipers instead, so the enemy has less damage against our dudes.
Well, the reason you only make 2 vipers is because 2 vipers, if you are using their consume and they have biomass, is enough to constantly spam their spells and have virtually unending energy because the biomass increases their energy regeneration, plus they can just consume.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically, I feel like Abathur's nice A tier.
All right. I personally had him in B, but A is fine.
Just,
Alarak, where do we have him?
P3 is good. It lets you not have to look at your base except for to build pylons, because you just have a mothership and you spit out destroyers from it. The mothership can fire while moving. Alarak can easily do his telekinesis kiting while he already wants to be moving when he's doing destructive wave kiting.
Telekinesis kiting.
And then Wrathwalkers fire while moving. So basically, you got a lot of options for being able to kill Amon while dodging nukes. So if you don't have P3, you probably want to go Mass Stalker with maybe some Wrathwalkers, but the Mass Stalker is because they can blink and because it's not the end of the world if they die horribly. It's kind of fine. And if you are using P3, then honestly, you could probably just go Mothership with Mass Destroyer. It means that they're area units, they can stack on top of each other, so they're a smaller footprint, so they don't have to worry about not being able to squeeze in between the nukes into the blank space.
Makes sense.
And then you don't even have to look at your base or look back at a pylon to warp in. Nothing. The Mothership warps into the destroyers on location. There's no rallying reinforcements. Warp gate is great. Yeah, I would say Alarak is really good. A tier, maybe S tier. I think P3 Alarak is the candidate for S tier.
How about you, Tutu?
I don't think he's S, just because the S's have a lot less to worry about and don't care about nukes. Whereas
sense.
Alarak, if you get nuked, you're kind of screwed. So you're not going to get nuked if you have Mothership and you're paying attention, because that's pretty much the only thing you need to do. Barrier's not a problem, especially if you're fighting Zerg, because if you one-hit kill the Zerglings, they don't trigger barrier.
So
Although the
don't use-
destroyers might trigger barrier. No,
But if destroyers
that-
trigger it, then it doesn't re-trigger later.
yeah. The center of the 2 expansions is not safe from the nukes, so don't build pylons there. Just as a heads up, you probably want to build it in the main.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think A is good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So, is
I-
the mothership's teleport fast enough to get teleported before the nuke lands? If you see the red nuke area go off at the center of your army,
If you see it immediately and then immediately teleport, then you can probably dodge it. Yes, I'm not sure how much your margin for error is. I would have to check that.
yeah, I don't think it's a
Editor,
lot.
jump numbers in here.
You have
Sure.
to click a building, right?
Yeah, just
TNT.
click
Yeah,
a
you have to
building.
click a building. Yeah, it is like it's basically like how quick is the teleport, and also the fact that you have to click a building or a unit. But the point is like you have to look back at your base and click teleport on your nexus, and then basically if you're really trapped and you think really fast, it's a valid option. But
You just fly out.
don't count on it because it's like it's like you have to be like immediate response, just jump out.
Sure. All right. So without prestige, still A, right?
Yeah. Without prestige, no S possibility, but definitely still A.
Arcturus, where do we have him?
So he doesn't need to do anything on the map. He stays at home, and then you bomb everything.
Earth
And
splitties.
you like basically weaken everything until there's like just very little left, and you can contaminated strike them if you're P1, or if you're P3, you have a small army to clean up, and they're all going to be armed. And a small army is easy to manage, and if they get nuked, like since you're watching them, you're not going to lose much.
Oh no, anyway.
Yeah. So I think A is and also you can put bunkers at ramps to hit those escort waves if they're on the wrong side.
Yes.
So yeah, I think he's A, easy A.
How about you, Sixpender?
Yeah, good eye def is a good thing on this map. Yeah, pretty much. You do the same thing. The big thing to remember is this is like one of the few situations where you actually want your ESOs in moderation, not just like I have 50 ESOs and nothing else. If you do that, then you're going to be very slow to actually get that army out that is supposed to actually, clean up the constructs and put the trucks on the pads. So only build like 10, 12 ESOs. That's enough. It
Also-
doesn't take that long for that to just chew away most of the defenses and leave very little left.
You also want them at the edges of your base, right? At the minerals or something? Or do you want them still at the center?
I think no. I think that you could put them pretty central, to be honest. Yeah, you'll miss like the far corners of the bases if you put the ESOs in like the center area, but you could contaminate strike for that, and even if you don't, it's like, oh no, this entire base defended by a singular siege tank. Oh no.
Okay.
Basically, the ESOs don't have to be able to clear completely everything. The point of the ESOs is to just soften things up so much that by the time your troopers go in, it's like paltry, negligible resistance.
Okay. One more thing here is that you can actually block the truck's pathing with your Earth Splitter, so just be careful not to create a perfect line between your enlistment center and your allies' main base. So the truck has pathing to go through. You can block the truck, so A for Arcturus. Artanis, where do we have him?
Artanis. Once again, the wonders of Warp Gate. So he has Warp Gate for everything. You don't have to look back at your base in order to summon units. You don't even have to look back at your base to build pylons because he doesn't do that. You just have to look back at it to build tech structures. So that's helpful for being able to get in there. If you are not using P3, you have Guardian Shell, which means that after you get nuked, you have a bunch of 1 hit point units, which I guess is technically better than a bunch of dead units
Yes.
by a small margin.
Well,
It's not by much, I can tell you that much. Having only 1 hit point is bad because Artanis is kind of known for trading blows, not for just shooting aim on from safety. But it's still nice to have that insurance. And if you aren't using if you are using P3, then well, you still have all the warp gate stuff, and you still can just chew through things by just throwing your top bar at things, because Space Archons can really clear this map quite fast. There's a reason that the duo speedrun on this map uses Artanis, and it's entirely Space Archons.
nice. So, letter.
You could, I could say S, but I'd only say S because I'm feeling like this is such an easy week. I'd nominate like a small handful of S candidates.
So you're saying you go for primarily Archons, and for your army you go Dragoons or Tempests? Because I just want to point out that
I like Tempests.
I just want to point out that Dragoons clump. They don't occupy a small area. It might be
Dragoons are
difficult
fat,
to keep
yes.
them all safe. So maybe there's an
Yeah.
argument for Tempest or even Immortals.
I personally prefer Tempest on this mission either way, but if you prefer Dragoons, you can go for Dragoons. If some of them get nuked, that's not really the end of the world.
How about you, Tutu?
I think Tempests are better because of Photon Overload. Like, just ignoring that damage is much better than getting hit, even if you have to shield overcharge. I don't think there's any way he's better than the A's right now.
I agree.
Artanis kind of sucks against barrier. Not terrible, but like,
True.
if you're gonna drop, if you don't how should I say, if you don't manage the top bar very well and you like burn 50 energy on one of those escort waves, then that's just like you're not clearing anything, and you're just like you wasted 50 energy to stop those. Yeah, I think I used like 1 or 2 Archons to stop the waves while the trucks are ahead, and then I drop the rest there to clear some stuff. So each Archon drop clears some of the enemies in the bases as well. P3 means that you have to be more careful though, and you definitely cannot get nuked.
Definitely not.
Yeah, so I put him in B.
I also have him in B actually, but what do you think, Stickspender? Are you gonna make a case for S?
No, I'm not. I don't think I'm gonna make a case for S because like my case for S, it's like I was gonna put Alarak at Artanis and like half the commanders in S. A makes more sense. To be honest, like in terms of like if we want to keep S actually somewhat exclusive even on a really easy mutation, because I know on some really easy mutations you got a lot of S, but yeah.
Yes.
I think that generally just like you guys seem to really like Guardian Shell, so you can go ahead and not use P3. And it does help your ally on that front if you do decide to not use P3.
Yes.
And Tempests are, again, air units, so they occupy a small space. They are definitely fast enough to dodge in case anyone was worried about that. They can dodge nukes. They are fast enough. And worst case scenario, if you need to, shield overcharge is equal to half of the damage of the nuke at the center, which means if you're on the edge of the nuke, shield overcharge can just absorb a nuke. So if you really end up getting caught, but I don't think you actually should need to worry about that. You shouldn't get caught, and you could just keep warping your units on the front line without ever having to look back at your base or worry about rallying reinforcements, and that is, I think, really good. And also the fact that you can just, fast expand with Archon drop if you do use P3 so that
Oh yes, that does work. A fast expansion is always nice.
Yeah, Karax and Artanis are the 2 people who can super fast expand on this map.
I agree.
That's useful.
I'm just skeptical because by the way, we're saying Tempests, but we're still making Zealots for the truck attack waves, right? Because those are primarily Zerglings, so we definitely want spinny Zealots taking out those annoying Zerglings.
Personally, the biggest argument I see for putting him in B is that barrier can be a problem against Zerglings or Marines or whatnot from the truck escort waves. So, yeah.
My primary argument for B is that the other commanders just have, stronger units.
Yes, because you failed to use Tempests somehow. I'm not sure how you're failing. You A-move Tempests.
I didn't fail. That's just, after playing all these different commanders, I've come to the conclusion that the other commanders have more powerful options than Artanis' Tempests and Dragoons. But anyway.
I see.
What do you think, Tutu? Is A okay for you?
The main issue for Artanis is the small enemies on the ground. So Tempests suck against them, especially if they have barrier, where they take like extra hits, and Tempests shoot really slowly. So you have to have Zealots, but especially if they have Marines, if you don't have enough of them, then you're gonna like start hurting a little. And yeah, so it's a lot more work if things don't go well. That's why I think P3 is better, but then P3, you have to make sure you don't get nuked, and you have to make use of your Archon dudes, or else you're not clearing.
Or else why even go P3?
Run out of energy.
You have to use Archon dudes, or else why even go P3 at this point? I guess for the cheaper shield overcharge, but Yeah, I kind of agree with Tutu, but are you still adamant about A, Stickspender?
I can see him in B, and I will say that like Tutu said, the biggest problem is that the truck escorts are a lot of little dudes on the ground, Zerglings or Marines or whatever, and they need a lot of spin lots for that, because they have barrier. Normally they would just go down easy to like a small handful of spin lots. Now you need a lot more spin lots because they have 3-4 times as much health because barrier.
Because
That's annoying.
barrier. Agreed.
Yeah.
So B?
Sure.
Dehaka, where do we have him?
Nuke does like what, 500 damage, I think.
Yeah, something like that. 500.
Pack leaders have like
It is, I believe, 8 or 750 or 800.
750. Oh
That
yeah.
was
So
500.
it's less than 1,000 for sure.
Yeah.
But pack leaders, especially like Docrun, have several thousand HP, especially with P2. They have a few thousand even with regular, even if it's not P2. And creeper hosts, if you
Still
choose
work.
to use them, you can use creeper hosts or mutalisks. Mutalisks have an extra life, so if they get nuked, then they'll
Just revive.
activate their second life. And if you use creeper hosts, you just send them out from home. But I think mutalisks are better.
Insert clip of 2 nukes happening on the same spot in rapid succession, so the mutants get nuked, and then their respawn cocoons also get nuked.
That's very, very unfortunate.
That's very
But I think
unfortunate.
even if you get nuked, you can still use pack leaders to do a lot of the work. And your mineral dump will be on primal worms, which you can teleport them in, deep tunnel them in, deal some damage. If they die, they die. It's like they're better than Zerglings. So yeah, I put Dehaka in S.
How about you, Stickspender?
Yeah, second life mutas, pack leaders that just don't care. Seems like a good set of stuff.
Unless Amon says
What about
nuke.
We've already had it. We've had one, yes. What about second?
Nuke. And
yes,
then,
but that only messes up your mutas, and only if you messed up against the first nuke.
I guess
and
that's true.
You still have pack leaders that don't even need units. Units are optional again, kind of like Abathur's non-ultimate evolution units were optional.
Yes. Non-pack leaders are optional, I think. So
Exactly.
S, right?
Yeah, like Abathur, but you don't have to worry about your ultimate evolutions getting nuked.
Phoenix, where do we have him?
That you just throw angry zealot at things, and he gets nuked, and then you don't care.
I believe we talked about this before. Phoenix is a hammer, and this mutation seems like something that you can smash with a hammer.
Yes, this is definitely a nail, and he is a big hammer, and yeah, just throw champions at problem.
Keep your shell farm in
Champions
base.
die, throw them again. Keep shells in base where they don't get nuked. Win game. Hooray. Honestly, the most inconvenient thing about that style will be that the truck gets killed, and then you'll be waiting for the truck to come back, but that's it.
Yes. Yes, that's true. But where do we have him?
I want to say S, but I should probably say A because I'm putting too many people in S.
I think I also have Phoenix in S this time. But how about you, Tutu?
You're suggesting P2?
Yeah.
Yes.
P2 Phoenix? Well, I use P1 because I think P2 seems like if you get nuked, you're spending a lot of time running back from base. And I mean, the zealots fast, but everyone else, they're not as fast. And if they're like getting nuked on the way
adept
back,
is also fast.
you lose even more time. It's like you're gonna spend a lot of time just running and not hitting anything unless you gotta like you have to dodge.
I don't think it's personally. I don't think it's such a big deal because the big guy or the most important guy, Kaldi, gets there fast anyway, and it's not like it's slow enough that you lose the game. I don't think it's slow enough that you lose the game. I just think that it's easy enough that I can just recommend it to most people. Like, hey, if you're having trouble, just send your champions over and over again. They might die, but you have more of them, and they're cheaper, so you can easily replace it. But what do you think?
I think you should just do Death Ball, like regular Death Ball.
Oh.
But then, yeah, because you can have more scouts or carriers, but carriers, their interceptors get nuked, so that kind of sucks. But scouts and I guess just regular units, and then you move them away when a nuke comes. The only thing bad about that is that if you F2A, your replacements, which you kind of want to keep alive, will get killed. So you like you drag click, and then everyone put them to number 1, and you control group 1 for a while, and then do a lot of stuff. I feel like if you are trying to run in with P2 and your shells are like at base, you're wasting so much time. If you keep your shell farm outside, but they're nuke range, then you gotta take care of them. So it's like he's good against everything except the nukes, which I
Or
don't think P2 is a good option.
specifically the travel distance because of nukes.
Yes, yes. I mean, if you can keep an eye on your shell farm and not let them get nuked and then continue to macro, I think that's fine. Like you can send them in, but it's a lot of extra like babysitting, especially since they're not your main army. Unless you're looking at your shell farm and then you just 1A into the base.
That's what
and
I
you're,
do.
Like closer.
That's what I do. I just have my camera in my base because I need to build lots of pylons anyway. That's what I did for what was that called? The Ascended. I played this Phoenix. I was mostly keeping my eye on my macro and just attack moved my Phoenix and my other champions across the map. And at the end of the game, when the game ended, I felt like I was getting carried, but when I checked the score screen, I had literally double my allies' kills. My ally, by the way, who used the 180 mastery cheat, I still doubled him in kills, despite only looking at my base and attack moving my champions across the map. That did the job just fine for me.
Yeah, there's no nukes though, so that's the thing is not it's the taking care of shells part. That's
If you
so
keep
I don't think.
If you keep your shells
Might
in
I
your
note
base,
that if you have champion hit point mastery, then Keldalis survives a nuke to the face?
well, that's kind of a moot point when everything else in the enemy base shoots at him. But point taken, good point. I still think he's S, but again, if it's not unanimous, it's not S. So, Stixbender, are you still gonna try to convince Tutu of S, or do we just stick him back in A?
Oh, I don't
He
think
wouldn't
he's
have been
A.
a high
I think
S.
he's B.
You think he's
He's
B?
absolutely
He's
B.
absolutely not B. I don't think he's lowest B.
If you think he's B, then you are completely wrong to not use P2.
Yes.
I kind of am not surprised that you think he's B if you weren't using P2, to be honest, because using Army Phoenix here is like I just look at that like what? Why would
It
you
feels like a
stretch
big
yourself?
risk.
You're making it hard.
Yeah, when you can just keep your shell farm in your base and just not risk your entire thing all to the same nuke. Whereas if you play the second prestige, you can just send your army or send your champions a few at a time, and they will deal all the damage that you need. Plus, another risk with just doing a death ball is that when you look back at your base to build pylons, there's always a chance, and for me it's 100% chance, that a nuke will target my army. Because that's how my RNG works.
A further note is that if you have all 6 champions with P2, even if you don't ever have them die and you don't have Avenging Protocol, that just can punch through the base. So it's like you basically can just use your P2 champions like they're like a hero squad like Tychus or something.
Like Tychus, kind
and
of.
it will just work.
Tychus, except you don't even
cut through.
Tychus, except you don't even need to micro. You just attack move with no abilities to spam. Just attack move.
And more importantly, it's like you have your team of heroes that you A move in, except if all of them die, you don't care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're like really cheap, and you don't have like expensive upgrades to throw money at or anything. They just send the next wave. It's
I
fine.
absolutely-
If one of them dies, you can just keep like A moving it, and it'll just come in like walking through the nukes. And if it gets caught in the nuke rain, unfortunate, it dies and comes again. This time it runs even faster because of Avenging Protocol to dodge the nukes. And if it's Keldalis, it just survives the nuke.
The Avenging Protocol is actually a really good point. When you move really fast across the map, that kind of minimizes the travel time or the travel distance you need to get to the front of the action. And since you start in the middle of the map, I feel like the travel distance is shorter because you can just stand your army near the ramp where you need to rally from. And I believe that travel distance, especially if you have Mojo and Kolarian. Yeah, if you have Mojo and Kolarian, they just fly across. So they even ignore the winding terrain. So they just go almost immediately straight to the front.
Yeah, it's really like the bottom right base is the only one where you might run into travel time problems. Actually, you probably run into travel time problems with the bottom right base. But even then, again, if you just have all 6 champions with like full upgrades, then you just can punch through without even like you can get pretty far before you even lose any champions. So
I think Phoenix even has a solution for that travel time problem on the bottom right base. He just warp the Arbiter suit in and just recall the dudes when they all die.
Yeah.
I don't think it's So do you concede with A or S, Tutu?
A. No, not S. Never.
Not S. Not S.
All right. So A.
A is fine.
Without prestige. Still A? No. Yeah, I don't.
Then he's B. Then B makes
All
perfect
right.
sense without P2.
All right, that makes sense. So A with the second prestige, B without prestige. All right, let us move on. Han and Horner, where do we have them? Just put them in F
They're-
already.
They're like the worst one of the ones here, but even then, they're still like B or C. It's not no one's lower than C, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's
call
lower than
downs are
C.
good. You can take out the smaller buildings so that the photon overload isn't an issue.
Oh yes, that's true.
You can use P2 mass battle cruisers or wraiths or
If
and
I
then
recall
leave your galleons
correctly,
at home.
if
you want.
I recall correctly, Photon Overload only works on a maximum of 4 buildings at a time, and if 4 buildings already have Photon
No.
Overload, the rest won't shoot.
That is not correct.
That is not a thing. What is the max, or can you theoretically
I
activate?
do not know of any max. All I know is that if you are on Dead of Night with destroyers, you can anger a lot more than 10 buildings.
A lot more than 10. Okay, so, oh well. I was thinking of some sort of trick, but okay, never mind. So, the airstrikes are actually pretty useful to counter Photon Overload because you can just destroy all the buildings before you even move in with a single unit, and that will effectively nullify one of the mutators. I think that works in Hot and Horner's favor.
That's the only thing going for them. Barrier definitely does not.
Yeah,
Going
definitely does not.
nuclear also does not really do them any favors.
But the fire might also trigger the barrier because the barrier only activates on the first hit. So when your units come in, it's already been activated.
And then it times out, yes. Note, by the way, that is one important note. In case anyone didn't know that, I don't know if this is in Brian's mutator description, but barrier times out.
Yeah, so
it
you
does
can
time out just like a mortal barrier.
you can theoretically nullify 2 mutators before you run in with your army.
You can't nullify it completely because they're gonna drop stuff
That's
onto your
That's true.
or like onto your trucks.
Well,
I feel like basically I would say Han and Horner, realistically, I think they could go in B. And the reason we would put them in C would be because nobody else is in C. And it would be to make a statement about Han and Horner.
I keep reading comments every week about how we're hating on Han and Horner. We're not, guys. They just
I love Han.
What
and
do you
Horner.
mean? We are hating
love
on them.
using
They
Han and
deserve
Horner.
it. They're bad. We are hating on their power level because it deserves to be hated on because they are terrible.
I take it from a different approach. I keep quote unquote hating on Han and Horner, not because I hate them, but because I want them buffed. I keep trash talking them so that Blizzard will give them the absolute necessary buffs that they need. But sure, call it hate if you want. I just want them buffed.
Han and Horner, they're fun and all. They're just so weak. They really just are weak.
Okay, so the guys in the comments who are calling us haters, yes, you're correct. Apparently. So anyway, is it B or C?
C.
How about you, Sticksbender?
Okay, we can put him in C.
Buff Han and Horner, please. Karax, where do we have him?
I think he's just gonna kind of want to be like awkward Mengsk almost, in that you use your top bar instead of ESOs to clean out like the bulk of the defenses, and then you bring in a small army of either, I guess, carriers or immortals or something. You don't have marines, so that's inconvenient, but just a small army to go through what's left of the base after you mostly purify it from orbit.
Plus, you get fast expand.
He's just inconvenient Mengsk, I feel like. So
You can fast expand.
you can fast expand. That's true.
So where do you have
That's
him?
true. He's probably A, I think.
What do you think, Tutu?
I feel like that method is really slow, but it's fine. I did carrier racks, and it was okay. Just fly carriers and
By carriers.
top bar.
So you're saying
Carriers,
second
top bars.
prestige?
Yes. Sentinels don't care about nukes because if they get nuked, so what?
They can get nuked twice
And then-
because they have Unity Barrier and Reconstruction.
They're probably gonna lose the Unity barrier at some point. I don't even have a control group for the Sentinels. They just, if they die, they die.
They die.
I just make sure my carriers live.
That makes sense. Carriers are the big units here. Literally
Yeah,
big.
I think a because Unity barrier is like it's like mini Guardian Shell kind of. You get extra hits. Yeah, I think A is good.
How about you,
In a
Suspender?
sense, Unity Barrier is
you
better than
think?
Guardian Shell, given the fact that it, leaves the unit fully healthy instead
Fully
of
healthy.
at 1 hit point.
Instead of half dead. So
More than half dead.
you guys are both okay with A?
Yeah.
Cool. Kerrigan, where do we have him?
Oh yeah, it's yours.
Kerrigan, this is we kind of established one time this is her map, right?
Yeah, immobilization wave, pretty
Kinda.
good.
Yeah, you immobilization wave or P2 zap everything. She has good AoE against the little guys on the ground. I put her in A just because like barrier units with barrier, and if there's air, then she has to also work pretty. She has to work a little bit harder than the S people. So I think I would put her in A.
One more thing to note is that her immobilization wave is fixed. So those 200 HP units will now actually get one shot instead of having a barrier. That's nice. How about you, Stickspender?
Oh, it's more than nice. On this map, there's a lot of 200 hit point units on this map, actually.
Yeah.
Like, Cyclones and Science Vessels, there's tons of those
Cyclones?
against Terran, and they have, I thought Amon Cyclones had 200 hit points.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, Cyclones and Science Vessels will
No
now
longer a
actually
thing.
die.
The both of those are really annoying
both
for
of which
Kerrigan.
were, annoying.
Yeah. So
Disruptors will now die. Lurkers will now die.
that's incredible.
Yeah, Hero Solo Kerrigan should be able to do this. Like, basically, the whole thing that, like, Mengsk and Karax want to do a softening up, or Karax if you just go Karax, then not Karax, but Mengsk wants to do a softening up with ESOs. Kerrigan does that instantly with a singular button.
Wait, so we're saying...
And then, instead of a ball of, like, Marines, she has a hero unit who can hide in a worm to dodge nukes. The worms survive nukes because they have enough health, and your ally can use the worms to reinforce in order to make sure their ground units don't have to run through nuke rain to reinforce.
And they can also flee
I
through the
think they're
worms.
pretty easy S tier.
Yeah, I actually think S tier also works because the reason Tutu didn't put Kerrigan in S is because she has to quote unquote work harder.
Which is to say, you have to actually micro your hero unit instead of just I cast summon pack leader. I go to the bathroom while my pack leader wins the game.
Yeah. Are you adamant on not S, Tutu?
No.
Oh,
there's one thing that you can do about because if you make Ultralist, this is less of a problem. But if you're doing hero only, at least early game, you can pop a worm. Hit a building, the Photon Overload hits Kerrigan, you enter the worm, they start hitting the worm, and they come out and finish off the building.
So you wanna trick the Photon Overload into targeting the worm instead of your actual units.
Kerrigan gets hit for a few times before you enter the worm, and then once you enter the worm, then you have to
You've already changed the target.
Yeah.
That's neat.
My issue with Kerrigan is air.
Okay.
Air. I think with the third prestige with Desolate Queen, that's less of a problem because you just kinetic blast them.
Then the little waves will hurt more. The
that's
waves will
true.
hurt more.
That's true.
And
I would
you
go
can
for
use P2, but then you don't quite have the same level of. And then I deleted the entire base defense.
Exactly. So it's like if they're not heavy air, then yeah, S. But if they're like sending lots of air units with barrier on top, that's like
in that case, I'd rather have no prestige, so Kerrigan can take care of the small units, and then just have a token force of Hydralisks for anti-air. You don't need to kill the air defenses in the bases. You just need few enough of them that your truck can run through, and activate.
Also, Kerrigan can't die.
Yeah, it's true.
So you gotta
also Kerrigan
be able to go back and heal.
This mutation is one where you aren't quite so horribly punished for Kerrigan dying and having to stall with worms, but yeah.
I still think
I would note one of the best things you can actually do against air comps with PA0 Kerrigan is Kerrigan plus a bunch of queens, and you just
yes.
A move Kerrigan and press transfuse on Kerrigan repeatedly until everything is dead.
Or until nuke targets your entire queen force and you don't have.
No, but but this is for the air attack waves.
Sure.
And the air attack waves are going to your base.
That makes sense. Okay.
I remember on the Dead of Night mutation with barrier, hostile territory thing was I specifically did not get the chain lightning upgrade so that I wouldn't trigger barrier and I can just W to slide through them.
I think you mean structure overcharge is the thing you didn't want to trigger, right? Or was it barrier? Maybe it was
Maybe
barrier.
both of them.
No, it was barrier. Oh, both of them.
Both of
but
them.
then because if you can kill them in one shot, you would do that rather than triggering barrier, and then when you slide through them, they won't die.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So A or S?
I think she can be S either way, honestly.
Yeah, I
even
I would
with
say
the
low.
anti-air
If
weakness.
it's S, it's low S.
Yeah,
Sure.
only because of her anti-air weakness. Yes.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, but sure. Low S is still S. Nova, where do we have him?
So let's see. She has a small group of units. It's easy to dodge. It's relatively easy to dodge nukes. You drop them right out in the field, so you don't have to worry about rallying reinforcements. You have a strong hero unit. If the hero unit dies, it's inconsequential. If the units die, oh, now you're in trouble.
So why not go P3 and just delete everything
Yeah.
without? Why
Yeah,
not?
you still have to actually send in, units to escort your truck to blow up constructs with that.
I guess.
So that it's, once again, we're doing the same thing with Manxkin ESOs or Kerrigan and her mobilization wave, where it's like you do have to eventually actually have something there to clean it up. But
Nova's units are
yes,
good.
Nova's units are good. It comes down to basically Nova's units can't get nuked, or else you're in trouble. And also, only a handful of Nova's units are that mobile, so dodging nukes is like if you're using Liberators, you can dodge nukes because Smart Servos is really good. But it adds one extra step to dodging nukes because you have to unsiege and get out of the way, and then you have to try to re-siege and hope you don't siege in the middle of a nuke. And basically, it's like there's a lot of moving parts, quite literally. And you should be fine, but if something goes wrong, it's a pain to try to recover from that. So
Yes.
I think that Nova is okay. She could still make A, but
Because she has to risk her entire army to escort the truck.
yeah.
Okay. How about you, Tutu?
I used P1. I'm pretty sure I lost like 6 Liberators to nukes, and I still had like 10 by the end. So I still had a lot.
If you use P1, you still have a lot.
Yeah, I had a lot of Liberators, and
the concern is if you get them all nuked, because if you only get like 1 or 2 clipped by nukes, you're fine with P1. Yes.
Yeah, you also have the airlift.
Yeah.
So if they're coming, you just pay 200 instead of losing everything. You don't even have to you can just wait till the nuke drops, but you can also drop them off at home. And then you will lose nothing. Or
Pay 200.
you lose nothing.
Pay 200 to save your army. Imagine that scenario where you're like at 50 minerals or something, and nuke's about to hit your army. You call the Griffin. Please, Griffin, save us! Griffin's like, do you have 200? Then you're like, nope. Sorry, you're dead.
Not enough minerals.
Not enough minerals. No!
Like that one. It's like that one Carbot episode with the carrier, and it's like, not enough minerals. Sorry, no more interceptors. Now the entire carrier dies to one Hydralisk.
Single Hydralisk. So
P3's better at base clearing, but then worse against the regular waves. However, you can just camp the ramps. So
yes.
That's
That was what I was thinking. Just camp the ramps.
But it's really slow. Liberators will chew through structures and everything so fast. And if they drop escorts while you're doing it, you turn into shotgun mode and just kill everything in 2 shots.
Yes, I guess for slower players, or for slower players or players who like to take it slow, P3 is fine. But if you want to really carry and make sure you play fast, you can go with the first prestige. So, is A fine?
I put A. Put her in A.
All right, Step Boy, where do we have him?
Well, he's pretty good. So Zerglings don't have to worry about getting nuked at least, so that's cool. Not that I think that Banelings are something you should use here, but unless I'm mistaken, they still haven't fixed the fact that Banelings don't actually die to going nuclear because spaghetti code.
Really?
So Banelings are just immune to going nuclear. Zerglings have hardened shield, so they're effectively immune to going nuclear. Yes. Super Gary has 2,000 health, so he could survive 2 nukes and just be annoyed.
You just have to keep your stat light alive by overcharging it. So because if the stat light dies, you're stuck in slow Gary mode.
Yeah, well, you still have project stat zone from Gary, and then you can just make a new Statellite, and
that makes sense.
Just S tier. You just ignore nukes. You technically, a barrier is a thing, but is it a thing with how much damage Super Gary does? Basically, the summary is Gary is too strong and breaks the game.
Gary's too strong. How about you, Tutu?
Yeah, nothing bad.
Great. Stukov, where do we have him?
Stukov, I'm not sure where to put him because he's very slow, but 0. If you use P3, he's 0 risk but very slow.
Yeah, there are two things that
The only
Stukov...
risk is time. So you might want to micro a little bit to dodge the nukes so that you don't die as much. But as long as you just keep making bunkers, you're gonna eventually kill them.
Yes, and your
And
top
you put
bars are
tanks
really
at
good.
home. You put tanks at home to deal splash damage to like the escorts if they get close.
Yes.
Yeah. So I put him in A.
How about you, Stixbender?
Yeah, it makes sense. Pretty simple. I don't even think it's that slow compared to some things that you guys were saying weren't that slow, but yeah, basically the big concern is time. Inevitably you will kill stuff. It's just you might run out of time, but I don't think it's that likely. A tier makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
Marines, but free.
Marines, but free. Swann, where do we have him?
Floating factories. Also on the list of things that survive a nuke. You float factories, laser drill shoots things, you make wraiths. Wraiths are good at dodging nukes, they're fast. And technically, if you do mess up and get nuked with your wraiths, but they're cloaked, then some of them will evade the nuke and live.
Yes.
Yeah, you keep a fifth of your wraiths, which isn't great, but that's take what you can get, and they're fast. And yeah, honestly, he's like A tier. You just float factories at things, you have wraiths, and the big problem of trucks dying because you have no ground becomes a little bit less of a problem. It's still a problem for Swann because of pure air. It's a little bit less of a problem because your factories can just float past the constructs, and it kind of works. Whereas, with a lot of commanders who are using pure air, you don't want to be fighting past constructs without the truck, which is the big problem where you have pure air. It's like
Yes.
the truck, the stuff behind the truck that doesn't shoot up is going to
Shoot the truck.
or the stuff behind the construct that doesn't shoot up is going to shoot the truck.
Yes.
And you either have to kill that while being shot by the construct or hope that the truck doesn't die. And laser drill can just shoot down that stuff while the factories get shot, and it's okay. So that's the biggest weakness of Swann, honestly, is the fact that there's mass air there, and if you want, you can just make ground units like Goliaths or something, and they're fat, but they at least draw aggro.
You can put them in the
laser drill's doing
Hercules.
most of the work.
You can put them in the
Yeah.
Hercules so that they take
You
up
can
less
put 'em in
space.
Hercules. Yeah, except then they take up a lot of space when they're shooting stuff again, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, notably, if you are about to get nuked with like a bunch of Goliaths and they have a Hercules over them, if you load into the Hercules and the nuke lands and kills the Hercules, the Goliaths will then be spit out of the Hercules when it dies, and the Goliaths will be unharmed even though the Hercules gets blown up by the nuke.
It's science.
Yeah, science. So, yes.
Letter.
Swann, decent.
I thought you
Decent
said
enough for
D.
A, probably.
How about you, Tutu?
I used P3. So P3, tank Herc. They protect the trucks kind of,
protect.
but sometimes
They attack.
if they get nuked, you have an extra life. And science vessels can teleport to the action for some defense matrix or assistance or whatever, so that's cool. But they're not really necessary. And
Yes.
if you're against heavy air, you just have lots of turrets at home because P3 floats tons of minerals.
Nice.
So yeah, I think A is good.
Cool. Without prestige, still A.
Yeah, I think still A.
Tychus, where do we have him?
Tychus. Small army that's strong, protects the truck, has ways to dodge nukes in case of emergencies, 3 ways, or same way 3 times.
3 lives.
So
get out of jail free.
S.
Yeah.
Oh, and a big red button that deletes an entire area.
All right. How about you, Stixbender?
Yeah, Tychus deletes things. It is good. He's S tier, right?
Yeah. No, we're talking without prestige here, right? Because you want your army together, so that they can punch through. Or do you think no?
With whichever prestige other than P2, and if you do use P2, bit weird, but okay. I mean, I guess that means you can survive multiple nukes. You only have 1 truck though, so there's only so much you can do without the truck. So why would you use P2? P2 is just kind of bad on this map because of the stupid truck mechanic that everybody despises. Yeah.
So Vorazun, where do we have him?
So you mentioned the whole teleporting things out with Alarak. With Vorazun, you really can do that because the Dark Pylon teleports very, very quickly, and you don't have to be looking at your base. You just have a control group with a Dark Pylon in it, and you click on that control group and click recall, and your entire army just poof.
It's safe.
Or your ally's entire army just poof. He could do it. She could do it for her
Yeah.
ally. She could do it anywhere on the map,
Exactly.
and she could do it instantly. It's very helpful.
Or if you're feeling trolly, you can put a dark pylon somewhere on the map that's gonna get nuked.
And then when you see a nuke in the lab, recall your allies' workers or your allies' army.
and then your ally gets really mad at you.
No, he won't, because death recall.
Aside from all that utility, Dark Templar have blink,
Shadow
so
Guard.
that makes them pretty good. Shadow Guard pretty good. Time Stop Mass Shadow Guard can really just gut everything except the constructs quite easily.
Then you have a naked base.
Yeah, I feel like she could just go in A. She's just good, like pretty good all around. She doesn't have anything that makes her like, oh wow, this is super super easy. But like, she just is good, and the mutation is easy. So A.
How about you, Tutu?
One thing to know is that even though she has ground units, if the enemies can't see the ground units, they will still hit the truck.
This is true.
So,
But then,
Shadow Fury.
if you have P3, that no longer becomes a problem due to your Shadow Guard during time stop just going and cleaning out everything.
yes, yeah, it's a small thing because I don't care about the truck that much, and the truck can move, so you can run towards your base where you have cannons to draw the aggro away. So yeah, I think A is fine.
Sure. Zagara, where do we have him?
This one, so she needs to reinforce her army, and she does it from base, and you don't want to lose those guys because
That's your
would
army.
suck a lot. Yes, so you got to pay a lot of attention to like her army when they're coming back. By herself, she could take care of the first two areas alone, and then starting from the third area, you need
Army.
assistance. You need army, and you got to pay attention because there will be too much stuff to take care of otherwise. So she's gonna be in the B or C range.
How about
I
you?
put her in C.
How about you,
but-
Sixbender?
Hero unit is a good thing to have. I felt like she was B because yeah, her hero unit can solo the first area easily, the second area pretty easily, and then for later areas, what I expected would be like you would just max out on like Baneling Scourge with your hero unit, and it would basically be you'd slam that wave of Baneling Scourge in, and there would be a bunch of stuff alive still, but that bunch of stuff would be reduced enough that we could go back to the hero unit dealing with everything.
Yeah, that could work.
So
Yeah, that makes
But-
sense.
I thought she was B. I thought she was like decent.
Yeah.
Like possibly, like I don't think she's quite A, but she's like comfortably B. I thought.
Okay.
personally.
So we're all fine with B. I thought C, but
Yeah.
B was also fine for me. Zeratul. Where do we have him? Cannon's good. Yes.
Cannon's good. Yeah, it just teleport. They don't even have to worry about silly things like getting nuked because they don't actually die if they get nuked. Your hero unit is strong. Cannons draw aggro and tank and such, so the trucks don't die horribly due to constructs, or due to enemies shooting at your trucks instead of your units because you have plenty of hit points.
Yeah.
Like it's everything's good, and he's just really, really, really strong. So yeah, it's probably S tier.
How about you, Tutu?
Man traps artifact. Man gets +9 cannons. Man wins.
Hooray!
S tier, of course.
All right. Rankings. Who's the best among the S?
Zeratul.
Really?
Is that
I
good?
thought it was between Dehaka and Stetmann.
I was thinking it was between Zeratul and Stetboy because both of them don't have to care. They just throw units and stuff into the.
Yeah, for Zeratul, your cannons are free. So if some of them die, so what? You just make more, project them.
Where Stetboy can just throw Roach Ravager. It's a bit slower, but still gets the job done.
I think running in with Zerglings F2A is much better.
Yeah.
That works too. But yeah, so it's
Stetmann also, I guess Stetmann can be as well.
yeah. So Zeratul Stetboy, is that what we're saying?
I thought Dehaka was up there too, but personally, I actually
Dehaka is also still really good. Yeah, I think Dehaka.
I actually thought Dehaka was the best. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, Dehaka is also really good, especially if you have creeper hosts in your base. You can just kind of these three guys basically can just throw stuff without fear of their stuff actually getting lost. Maybe getting delayed, but yeah, these three guys. If you have these three guys, just use them. They can be interchangeable. I think Zeratul and Stetboy still a little bit above Dehaka, because Dehaka, your packer still can get focused down and nuked enough. Unless you use the second prestige, but Ulisks are also really good though, but also optional. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you
Yeah, I think Dehaka. So whatever Tutu thinks.
Stetmann's the least effort and least change in what you're doing. You don't have to pay that much attention because you're
Yes.
doing what you normally do. You'd be doing that thing anyways. You're just gonna F2A, throw Igors, spread
Yes.
Stellalites.
That's kind of the
Although
deal.
overcharge is kind of annoying when you're trying to spread a Stellalite.
Oh yes, that's true. Also, the nukes will be annoying if you don't have the satellite overcharge available.
That's points against them.
Yeah, that's points against them. So Dehaka over Statboy?
Yes.
Okay, then it's Tychus then Kerrigan, right?
Yes, like that.
I feel, by the way, I feel like we've gotten into this idea that Stetmann is easier than he is. He still has a lot of macro, like a lot of macro for those Zerglings. And you still do kind of have to micro his hero unit and be on top of using Stellalite overcharges effectively, and you still have to be on top of spreading Stellalites. There's a lot of actually stuff to do playing Stetmann. He is not innately an extremely easy commander. He's just such an incredibly powerful commander, and his strategy is so simple that we can talk about it. But mechanically, he's not that easy. I feel like we've gotten into this idea that Stetmann is mechanically easier than he is.
But the macro part is just holding down the Z
a
key.
single key.
Build,
and if you're late on that, Gary's
I guess-
hold until they come.
Lots of overlords.
I guess the most involved.
Build all your buildings.
I feel like the most involved part of Statboy's macro is actually the Statlight part, because you have to put them down one by one, and you have to look everywhere that you put them. But with the Zerglings and the Overlords part, you can just do that using control groups and hotkeys. You don't have to look back to your base for that.
Well, it's definitely harder than just I cast Pack Leader. Hey, look, everything died.
Yeah, that's why we have Dehaka on top, or over Statboy this time.
I still think Dehaka is better than Zeratul, honestly. But I'm saying in general,
That's true.
Stetmann, I think, is like, I think that in general, we've gotten this idea that Stetmann is easier than he actually is. I still think he's like obviously like a high S tier. He's excessively powerful. He doesn't really care about these mutators. He's just a very good commander. But he's not an easy commander mechanically. He's only an easy commander mechanically because his power level is so way overtuned that he makes up for it and gives you huge room for error.
I just like seeing Statboy's shocked face. It's like he's hearing how OP he is, and he's like, "What?" I petitioned that we in the co-op community replace the shocked Pikachu face emoji with a shocked Statboy face emoji. That should be a new thing with the co-op community, because honestly, look at Statboy's shocked face. He's so shocked that he's so powerful. He doesn't even understand how he got to be that powerful. But anyway, for A, who's the best among the A?
I would say the best A tier is
So many.
might actually be
Phoenix?
Abathur.
Abathur?
I was thinking Abathur and then Phoenix personally.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Once you get to Ultimate Evolutions, it's just kind of not even attack move. Sometimes you just have to move command and your Sibis will do the work, but also attack move. And Vipers, great at making the enemy not shoot you. Does Disabling Cloud work on the overcharge?
I think so.
That is great. That's one more mutator nullified. You just have to dodge nukes, which is easier if you have 6 guys rather than a whole army. But then again, Phoenix is so simple. I guess in Abathur's favor is that you can just forgo macro completely once you have your 6 guys, or just add them in. For Phoenix, you just look at your base and your shell farm, and you just attack move using the minimap, and just kind of expect that things will take care of themselves. I guess you had to glance once in a while to make sure a truck is alive, and it's disabling a construct so your units can shoot at it. But what do you guys think?
I'm not sure.
Okay, who might be better than Abathur and Phoenix? Arcturus?
So Stukov.
Nova? Stukov? Yeah, Stukov, that's actually easy.
Stukov's pretty good.
Yeah, actually, Stukov. There was a time when Stukov was the answer to everything not named Poopigators or Transmutation.
He's actually not that bad against props.
Well, not anymore.
I know, right?
Not that you have the 3rd prestige, not anymore. But before, He was because he
Yes,
don't trickle
he used
fast
to have
enough.
problems because he used to be unable to get that critical mass of Marines until too late, and then it became a problem. Yeah.
Now there's Diamondbacks.
And now there's Diamondbacks, and now P3 just gets a critical mass of Propagators, both of which are good things. Good things. Yeah, I can see Stukov as like I still think that Abathur and Phoenix are like the top two, but I can see Stukov competing with Phoenix, and I think Abathur is the top.
In
like,
that conversation, who else is in the conversation? Abathur, Phoenix, Stukov.
I don't think anyone gets up to those three, so it
No.
would be like who's next.
Okay, so we'll just leave them in that order. Just call it a tie.
Sure. Well, a tie between Phoenix and Stukov, we can call it. Abathur, like, I think Abathur is just comfortably the best.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Who's the next one? Vorazun? Now that I think about it, Time Stop, Black Hole,
I'm not sure
Death,
how Black Hole is
Death
particularly
Recall.
good here. It's just a general.
Yeah,
thing.
I just
Death Recall is
Death Recall.
Death Recall is very good.
Death Recall. Dark Pylon
Dark
Recall.
is really good.
Yeah.
Time Stop, Gut
Time
Spaces.
Stop with Free Shadow Guard.
Yeah, I can see Vorazun next. Yeah.
What do you think, Tutu?
Okay.
Then maybe Alarak because of the power of just like a mothership that keeps summoning things on top of itself. And also, by the way, if you do get nuked, the mothership plus Alarak alone can do quite a lot, but you do kind of need to get those units back. So it is kind of bad to get nuked. But he's not
Awful.
completely dead if you're nuked. It's just really bad, not end of the world bad.
Or Vorazun, if you get nuked, oh no, Second Life.
Recall. And then you get nuked again. Yes, but what about second nukes?
But second nuke. For those of you who get the reference, you guys are old. Anyway.
Eh,
Who's next? Nova? I like Nova. Or Arcturus. Arcturus with Earth Splitters?
I think Manx.
Stays in base.
Yeah, stays in base.
I
Okay.
was thinking Manx next, to be honest. Yeah.
Wait,
I
why
would
not?
say Manx next, and then probably like.
Why not Arcturus over Alarak?
I think yeah.
Because he does. Manx still has like all of the like parts of like making his Earth Splitters, shelling the base, and then going in with his units. Yes, the base will be really easy when you go in for units, but it's all these steps and it's a little slow. Whereas Alarak can just like really quickly just go in there with Alarak, a mothership, and start spamming destroyers. He's very quick. There's much less time pressure, which means there's much more room to recover. Like you have much more time to recover in case of something going horribly wrong. Whereas Mengsk, yeah, he can afford to buy another army of troopers if his small ball of troopers dies, but will he have time to do that? I think that he's still like A tier, obviously, but I think that I'd prefer Alarak just because of that, and because of the whole, not having to ever really look back at my base, as opposed to having to build all those ESOs and everything and just like set up everything before I can safely leave my base, because otherwise I'm staring at my base while my army is in nuke rain.
What do you think, Tutu?
I think being able to destroy almost everything before even going in is really, really powerful. You suffer like 0 losses, and you're not even on the map while that's happening. You're sitting at home defending
And
just
macroing.
looking at yeah, but
Building
you're not
up.
worried about nukes.
Yes.
So you're just like shelling stuff.
Yeah, the point is you're building up while the enemy's trimming down. So that's a really good mechanic, right? A really good trade-off right there. Let's call them tied. I don't know. They do different things. So last 3 guys are Swann, Karax, and Nova. Nova's better than these guys, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I like Nova.
Swann at the bottom.
Swann at the
Swann
bottom.
at the bottom, no at the top.
But he's not Buon.
He's not Buon. He's not Buon, but he's the bottom
Nope,
here.
he is not.
So he's like the other kind of Buon.
Sure. For B, who's best in B?
Artanis.
Okay, yeah, no
Artanis.
problems with that.
And the Zagara bombing method seems good.
Cool. Are you guys sure that Hot and Horror is a whole tier below them?
I sure am.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Although I should mention that in my run towards the end, I had like nothing. I almost lost everything.
All right,
Did you-
fine.
what- Did you use P3 for your Rainer run, or?
P3.
Yeah.
For P3, I think it's fine, but like that's because I figured out the call down usage, when to use which ones, so that I
Oh.
have stuff for each wave
All right.
before I get enough battle cruisers.
We should get Lyle in these tier list discussions. We'd have Raider and S all the time. He's like, Raider's
We'd
easy.
have this
Come on.
detailed explanation of the exact Rainer build order and exactly like everything.
You draw out the siege tank so that it won't shoot at your bio, and then you peel off this unit, and you just have this enemy competition. Just roll it. It's easy. Anyway,
Just
so
get
that's
good. It's like, yeah.
guys. That is our tier list for this week. Watch Tutu and Sticks Bender's channels. I will link them down below, and I will see you guys next time.